Okay, morning everyone. We're going to carry on with multiplying fractions today, but this time we're going to be looking at multiplying fractions multiplying mixed number fractions by a whole number. So it's not just going to be proper fractions. Now we're going to look at multiplying mixed numbers or mixed fractions with a whole number. So let's have an example of what I mean. Here's yesterday's answers first of all. So just like I said the other day, don't worry if you've got yourself a little bit caught up in this last step. I want you to work out where your mistake is, but this lesson is about multiplying. So as long as you've got to that 20, 30, as long as you've got to that stage, that's great. Although if you are still making mistakes here, it's really important to work out what those mistakes are. Okay, so let's have a look. This time, each child has 1 2/3 of a mini cake roll. And the question is, did they have more than 8 mini cake rolls altogether? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 children, and each of those children has 1 2/3 of a mini cake. So our sum is going to be 5 times 1 2/3. Well, we know if we draw that out, that means that every child has 1 whole and 2/3, and that happens 5 times. So essentially, we're doing 2 different calculations here. We're going to do 5 times 1. 5 times 1 we know is 5. And then we're going to do our 2/3 times 5, which is what we were doing yesterday. So we know we're doing 2 times 5. That's 10. So we have 10/3. And then we need to ask ourselves, right, 10/3, how can I simplify 10/3 down? Well, I know that if I divide 10 by 3, the answer is 3 with 1 remainder. So I have 3 wholes and 1/3. This is where we've got to be paying attention, because I had 5 earlier from this part, 5 wholes. And now here, I've got another 3 wholes and my 1/3. So I'm going to add those 5 and that 3 together to make 8. So now I have 8 wholes and my 1/3. So when we're dealing with mixed fractions, we're going to multiply the whole number. We're going to multiply the fraction. And then we're going to combine those two. What's really important in this type of question is that when you come to combine them, that you've turned your fraction, this half, back into a mixed fraction. You can't combine an improper and a whole number. So my answer wouldn't work if I said the answer is 5 10/3, because 10/3 is an improper fraction. So I've got to convert that to mixed, add the 2 whole numbers together, and then add the fraction in. So the answer was they had 8 1/3 of a mini cake roll. So when we go back to our original question, it was saying, was there more than 8 mini cakes? And of course, the answer is yes. Okay, I know this is a bit small, but let's try this one. So we've got 1 1/3, multiplied by 4. So we're going to multiply 1 by 4. That gives us 4. And then we're going to deal with our fraction 1/3. So again, we're multiplying the numerator of 1 by 4. It gives us 4/3. 4/3 simplified down. There's 1, 3, and 4. So it's 1 whole and 1/3. So now I'm going to take my original 4 plus that new 1 to get 5. 5 1/3. Does that make sense? Let's just write it over here just to be, oh, that's huge. Let's just write it over here just to be really clear. So I had 1 times 4 equals 4. And then here I had, it's got massive again. I had 1, I'm just going to write it like this for now, guys, times 4 equals. So I know the way I've done that one is simply by saying I've got the numerator 1 times 4 is 4. So I'm then doing 4/3. I know that 4/3 is the same as 1 and 1/3. And when I add my 1 from here to my 4, that's 5, and then I've got my third. So my answer to this is 5 and 1/3. Whoop, third even. Okay, what about this one here? 2 and 5/6 multiplied by 3. 2 and 5/6 multiplied by 3. Same thing. In fact, I'm not going to speak. Pause the video, see if you can work it out, then we'll go over it together. Brilliant. So 3 times 2. I'm just going to put my number down here so I don't forget it. 3 times 2 is 6. I'm just going to leave that there while I do the next part. And now I've got 3 times 5. 3 times 5 is 15. So I'm going to have 15/6. How many 6s are there in 15? 6, 12, 18. I haven't got 18, so I'm going to have 2. So when I take 12 away from 15, that leaves me with 3. And I've got another 2 to add over here, which means that's no longer 6. That's now 8. So I know my answer is going to be 8 and 3/6. At this stage, I don't mind if you're drawing it out still. I don't mind if you're writing in number sentences. I don't mind if you're doing kind of bizarre notations like I was there and doing it more mentally. That's fine. However, if you're doing bizarre notations and you're getting it wrong, then it's important to say, actually, do you know what? I'm going to now look at writing this out in a more formal way because it's not working for me. It's really important that you're honest about that. So then you might say, right, I'm going to do 2 times 3 equals 6. Then my next sentence is going to be 5/6 times 3 equals 5 was 15 times 15/6. Then I might say, right, I know that 15 has, in fact, I'm counting 6. I can do 6, 12, and then I know that I've got 3 more in 15. So now I'm going to say that I know that 15/6 is the same as 2 wholes and 3/6. And I'm going to add in 2 plus 6 equals 8. And then I need to put in my 3/6. Okay, so if you want to write it down in a more formal way, that's fine. If you want to draw it out still, that's fine too. And in fact, the links that I sent in a lot of the previous lessons where you've got the ITP, you can use that. That's absolutely fine, although I don't think it goes up to 8. Right, let's have another try at this one here for a moment. Let's just move that down for a second. Can you calculate 1 3/4 multiplied by 2? I've drawn it out for you here. 1 3/4 multiplied by 2. Right. Brilliant. Hopefully you've done that. Now, in fact, there are 2 methods that you could have used to do this. And this is just like when we were talking about addition and subtraction last week, the 2 different methods. We basically can continue to partition, which is what we've been doing now, or we can get into improper fractions. Either way works. So the method we've been doing now is simple. We've been saying, right, I'm going to multiply 1 whole by 2. I know that's 2. Then I'm going to multiply 3/4 by 2. So that's 6/4. I know that 6/4 is 1 whole and 2/4. I'm adding my 1 whole to my other 1 whole, my other 2 1 wholes, sorry. So that's 3 wholes and 2/4. So I partitioned it into whole numbers and fractions and multiplied each part and then recombined. That's what we've been doing so far in this lesson. Another way you could have done it, though, is to convert it all into an improper fraction first. So if you're finding that the whole numbers and the mixed and the fractions are just confusing you, then convert that 1 3/4 into an improper fraction first. Because 1 3/4 times 2 is exactly the same as 7/4 times 2. Because remember, 1 whole is 4/4 plus 3/4, that's 7/4. So if you find it easier to say, actually, I'm going to multiply 7/4 by 2 and realize that that's 14/4, then all you've got to concentrate on is working out what 14/4 is in its most simplified form. So 14/4 is, of course, the improper fraction, so we're going to have some holes in there. So then we would start counting up in 4s. 4, 8, 12. There's my 3 holes. I had 14, I've taken away 12, it means I've got 2/4 left. So there are 2 options for dealing with multiplications. You can partition out, or you can turn it into an improper fraction. There are some times that turning it into an improper fraction isn't going to help you. For instance, if I had 297 and 3/4 multiplied by 4, turning that into an improper fraction is going to be a ginormous number. So you do need to pick the method that's going to be best for you. Okay, I'd like you to do today's worksheet, please, and I will give you the answers to it in the next lesson, which actually is going to be on Monday, because tomorrow's lesson is a calculation lesson, just recapping your basic calculation skills. That's it for today, guys. I'll see you later.